Shishi Guru Garangagan Habik Gadidhari Radha Binod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Stautar Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Stautar Shishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Rupanuga Guru Vargya Ki Jai Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gaura Parasari Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shishi Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Jamuna Ki Jai Purihat Mridanga Ki Jai Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Nam Bhajan Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Ekadasi Brat Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo Agyatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamanapetyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Tarabhubinirustam Sarvabhutam Munimanatoshmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Rasvatim Tato Jayatu Dhirayam. I first of all offer millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. And the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astautar Sarashishimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all the Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, Dandavat pranams. So, we're continuing our study of Jai Sachinandana Gaurahari Ki Jai Radha Gopinath Ju Ki Jai Shrimati Radharani Brajeshwari Vrishabhananandini Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi. So we're continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavatam of the third canto, and we're going through the Kapil Devahuti Samvada. So for the last 2 days, I've touched on the 25th chapter and the 26th chapter. And the 26th chapter in particular was quite analytical about our situation and position. So today we've reached the 27th chapter, and what I want to do now is just read much more of the Bhagavatam itself, because I've been sort of talking about the overview in the last couple of days of this whole section of the Bhagavatam in connection with Gyan Mishra Bhakti, Astanga Yoga, what is pure devotional service, etc. So now I'm just going to be reading more directly. I'm going to try to cover 2 chapters today, because now there's only a few days left, and I want to complete. I want you to have a picture of this Kapila Devahuti Samvada. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. What are these chapters principally revealing? What is the purpose? What is the heart of it? So I think I can access that best by simply reading these translations and going through it this way. So now this 27th chapter is entitled Understanding Material Nature. Now another name for material nature is Prakriti. Prakriti is that material nature. So this is what we're going to try to understand, because it seems that we are bound by material nature. And this is what's going to be explained in the chapter. Although it's also explained that we are not bound. I'm just rolling through quite quickly whether people come or go or stay or talk or don't come, anything. I'm just going to keep on going. So whatever you want to do, you can do. I'm really happy with this, and I'm just going to do this. Third canto, chapter 27. So, as I mentioned before, I've been quoting sections from this Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, his initial comments. So now I'm going to quote something. I'll read the first verse first. So what I just said, does anyone remember what I just said? Probably not. Okay. I was talking about Prakriti, material nature. And it seems that we are bound by material nature, but we are not. We are bound by the three modes of material nature. We are not bound by Prakriti itself. So this is going to be explained here very clearly, very beautifully by Kapil Dev. So now I'm going to read this first translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued, Kapil Dev continued, when the living entity is thus unaffected by the modes of material nature. This is what I just alluded to, that we are bound by these three modes. So when we're unaffected by the modes, in other words, when we're liberated from these three modes of nature, because he is unchanging and does not claim proprietorship. This is the qualification for becoming freed from the three modes. We're no longer claiming proprietorship of anything in this world. I am not the controller. He remains apart from the reactions of the modes. This is how we become freed and liberated from the modes. Although abiding in the material body, even though we're still remaining here, with this knowledge, this is all about knowledge that Kapila Dev is imparting to his dear mother Devahuti. She is requesting this knowledge to purify her ignorance so that she can realize her proper position in this world and become satisfied in her devotional service. Although abiding in the material body, just as the sun remains aloof from its reflections on water. So the Bhagavatam is packed with these incredible analogies. So the sun, of course, even though it's been reflected in the water, it would appear it's there, but nevertheless the sun itself. So we are in that reflected condition. We think that actually we are being controlled by matter, but actually the soul, when he wakes up, he discovers that he's transcendental to matter. That's his nature. He is pure essential spirit. So matter can't actually affect the soul, just like the reflection of the sun on water. The sun is not affected by the rippling waves. If it looks like the reflection is going up and down, the sun is not moved or disturbed by that. So similarly, that the soul itself is actually not disturbed by this. So now, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a very interesting few lines here, alluding to the whole chapter. Prabhuji, you've just come, but I'm trying to present an overview of these chapters. I've started actually from the first canto going through, and now we've reached this part, and it's to try and give us a picture, to inspire us to constantly be touching the Bhagavatam. I'm not going to be speaking on the individual verses so much. It's to give us a collective overview of what is the topic presenting. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying in the 27th chapter, after discussing the method of Gyan mixed with Bhakti, this is what we just heard in the last chapter. It was Gyan Yoga, but it was mixed with Bhakti. And distinguishing Prakriti and Purush. So this material nature and Krishna. This was discussed in the previous chapter. The method for liberation is described. Now the method of liberation for the jiva is going to be described. Yesterday we discussed much about the elements. We discussed about that like the egg or the Virata Rupa form and how it couldn't be woken up. This is what was in the 27th 6th chapter. And now it's going to be discussed how to become liberated from this condition by discriminating knowledge. Knowledge is essential. We're covered by ignorance, avidya. As soon as that knowledge is purified, as soon as that ignorance is purified, then the light of the soul will manifest. Though the jiva is situated in Prakriti, it is not affected because it is not a doer, and consequently the jiva himself is unchanging. He's eternal. This is actually our spiritual constitution. Since it is without gunas in deep sleep and during final devastation. So when we are deeply asleep, we're not being affected at that point, in the deepest part of sleep. And during devastation, when the planetary systems are inundated, it's described, I was describing previously, it's like a great silence takes place. There's nothing. So the jiva is not being affected by the gunas at that point. He's not realized at that point. He's covered, but still he's not ultimately affected. So, and it's describing it's like the rays of the sun on water. The sun is not at all disturbed by the qualities of water. If the water quivers because of wind, the sun's rays on the water also quiver, but the sun itself remains aloof. So that's just putting it in perspective, that this chapter is going to describe something of Astanga Yoga and Gyan simultaneously. Okay. When the soul is under the spell of material nature and false ego, identifying his body as the self, he becomes absorbed in material activities. And by the influence of false ego, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. The other day someone asked, what's the meaning of false ego? False ego is what is not pure ego. Pure ego is our identity as an eternal servant of Krishna. The false ego is what Shivji gives us so that we can be illusioned to imagine we're enjoying matter. We cannot enjoy matter as spirit. We described this yesterday also. But as the false ego, having the false ego conception, then hell, I can have a great time because I think I'm material. So I can take all these material things and intoxicate myself with them, even though it's illusion, but I can be imagining that. This is what the entire world is frantically dancing on this stage, trying to enjoy this illusory energy under the impression of being this material body. And oh, I'm going to die soon. Oh, I'm sick now. And all constantly living life only on this false ego platform. This is everything. And it's qualifying here, he thinks that he is the proprietor of everything. Now, these are exactly the same teachings, I was thinking this morning, as Bhagavad Gita. They're non-different, but they're saying it a little bit differently, a little bit more clear. We have to hear this 1,000,000 times if we're thinking, oh my God, he's just saying we're not the body again. We heard this like 40 years ago. Are we never going to hear anything different from that? But how much do we realize that? How much actually progress have we made off that platform? So Kapil Devahuti is enlivening his mother this way. The conditioned soul, therefore, transmigrates into different species of life, higher and lower, because of his association with the modes of material nature. This is the principle here. This is what's going to be described a little later on. I've actually let the secret out already, saying that we're not controlled by Prakriti. We're not controlled by the material nature. We're controlled by the modes of material nature. There's a difference here, a big difference. Because it's going to be described that actually Prakriti is an essential Shakti of Krishna and cannot be separated from Krishna, even though it's temporary. Prakriti, he refers to him as he, himself, cannot be separated. It's going to be described like the fragrance and earth, or heat and fire can't be separated. So Prakriti and Krishna, they can't be separated. And where in that Prakriti, I'll come to this. I'm letting you know this in advance to give some overview of what's about to come. Unless he is relieved of material activities, he has to accept this position because of his faulty work. It could say offensive work also. Ultimately, we're understanding from Jivadharma why we are here, because of Vimukh. We've turned away from Krishna. This is an aparad. As soon as we commit that aparad, what's the next thing that happens instantly when you commit aparad? Material desires spring in the heart. That's the equation. Aparad, material desire, and what happens when you have material desires? Suffering. I mean, how sublime that Krishna's made that equation. It's an equation. Aparad, material desires, and suffering. 1, 2, 3. You can't avoid it. It's like locked in. When we realize these stringent laws that we're bound by, then we stop trying to fight them. And we accept the supremacy of that lawmaker or that controller in our lives. We can't dodge it. We try every day, but we can't. Actually, a living entity is transcendental to material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease. Just as in a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment, in very serious devotional service with detachment. And really and truly, for Western devotees, if they can be encouraged to take up residence in Vrindavan, it's like becomes so simple to actually follow this, because there aren't so many distractions. And the only reason that we should ever really go to the West is just to share the knowledge that we've understood by being here. This means we're serious, really, unless we have great duties to perform, you know, in the Western world, serving Gurudev, then really taking up residence here is the best option. I mean, most Westerners are pretty desperate, but if they were really desperate, they would come here. This is the place for the desperados, is actually Vrindavan Dham. Thus his mind and consciousness will be under full control. So a lot of this Astanga Yoga that Kapila Dev is speaking to his mother is talking about how to control the flickering mind. So can anyone here sit feeling, yes, I've controlled my flickering mind? No, heck, we're going through, you know, it's Kali Yuga. It's like I described yesterday, Prabhupada said, if you're on the mental platform, the mind is hovering. Hovering means it's not steady. That's the condition. So to have some insight into how to control the mind is like, it's like a jewel. It's priceless, yes. One has to become faithful by practicing the controlling process of the yoga system and must elevate himself to the platform of unalloyed devotional chanting by chanting, devotional service by chanting and hearing about me. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. All the basic teachings that we've heard from the very beginning. But again, you know, brought to life by Kapila Dev. Yesterday or the day before, I was explaining, you weren't here, how this conversation was spoken 2 billion years ago. It's in the first Manu. So when it's referring to different sorts of yoga processes, we understand that in that time frame, many people were practicing all types of different yoga. And they also had to be encouraged to go further. Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, is only giving us bhakti, but actually there are other considerations in the light of Gyan Yoga, Gyan Mishra Yoga, Karma Yoga, Astanga Yoga, etc. These are all like bona fide processes. They're not the fast track like Shuddha Bhakti is. Prabhupada wasn't mucking around with us. He just gave us straight, direct. Here's the heart of it. Shuddha Bhakti. So empowered personality. Because when you read this other commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's giving all the other focuses from the other directions simultaneously. It is the duty of every conditioned soul to engage his polluted consciousness, which is now attached to material enjoyment. Oh, did I just read this? Yes, sorry. Okay. In executing devotional service, one has to see every living entity equally. This is a very, very important verse. He repeats this twice in these 8 chapters to his mother. This understanding about how are we seeing each other in this material world. Every living entity equally, without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections to anyone. Intimate connections mean a materially attached place. If I'm materially attached to someone in this world, there's going to be disappointment, ultimately. Because actually dependence will probably come. Yesterday we had some letters around about, making a Sangha more focused and stuff like this. And I was talking to one devotee and I was saying this can actually, inspire dependence on each other. If you're talking about, yes, we are a family, we are like this and this and this, and then I'm going to depend on you and you can depend. This actually creates a weakness. This is not like a strength. We should all be independent and then offer the strength of our independence to each other. This is actually called interdependence. We should all be completely strong independently. And then you have something to bring to the table to offer to other people. But if we're being dependent on others, it's actually in Madhusudan Maharaj's book on Yoga Maya, he's describing this as being an offense. This is described as an offense, is to depend on others for my progress, etc. We have to be independent, and then you have something of value to give to someone else. But if we're always looking for happy families and stuff, that's a weakness. Actually, one time I was watching a video and Gurudev was saying on the Black Sea, someone was asking, oh Gurudev, there's so much fighting in the Sangha. Everyone's, can't we just somehow or other make it all, sweet and happy? And Gurudev jumped and he said, it will always be like that. It will never change. It's the nature of the living entity. To want that and desire that is kind of like a waste of energy, really. Better to want our own vision and clarity. Better to have tried to understand what is bhakti myself. And then I can share that with everyone I meet, everyone I speak to. Sorry?
Hang on to Gurudev's instructions.
Yes. Say that again.
Hang on to
Oh, hang on. Didn't understand your American accent. Hang on. Okay. Hang on to Gurudev. Yes. Without enmity towards anyone, yet without intimate connections with anyone, one has to observe celibacy, be grave, and execute his eternal activities, offering the results to the Supreme Lord. So now he's introduced how to become liberated from prakriti, from the material nature. Now he's going to explain to his mother, out of affection, actually how to do that. So now he's giving us some practical advice. Be celibate, be grave, be detached. I've realized there's like this evolution within all the chapters. There's like a gradation, there's a flow to it. It's not just, they're standing on their own each shloka, they're all connected. For his income, a devotee should be satisfied with what he earns without great difficulty. Whatever the Lord arranges. He might arrange you to have a massive inheritance. Okay? He might arrange you to have 0. Okay? Can we be transcendental in either way? It's easy to be transcendental when you've got a bank account full. Oh, I'm detached, because I've got my bank account. But when that's empty, are we still? He should not eat more than what is necessary, otherwise you'll sleep more. These are just practical. As I said, now he's describing what is practically helpful for bhakti. He should live in a secluded place and always be thoughtful, peaceful, friendly, compassionate, and self-realized. And Prabhupada is explaining in his purport, a secluded place in Kali Yuga is in the mandir, is in the temple. This is a secluded place. These are with other associates who also want to serve the Supreme Lord. This is a secluded state of consciousness when we're serving collectively in the temple. One's seeing power should be increased through knowledge of spirit and matter. How beautiful is that sentence? Our vision is increased by knowledge of spirit and matter, because every single moment of every day we have to differentiate between what is material and what is spiritual. Am I being pushed by a material desire now? Am I just wasting my few hours here, running here, doing this, doing that, doing that? Is all this actually, not helpful for my bhakti? Am I able to find the handbrake and just slow that process down? Can I actually have the presence of mind just to sit and think, well, I don't have to run to town 3 times, I can just do it all in the one hit, perhaps in the one shot. That's called like waking up and just becoming conscious, not even becoming Krishna conscious. Prabhupada used to say it like this, first become conscious, then become Krishna conscious. And one should not unnecessarily identify himself with the body and thus become attracted by bodily relationships. So this vanity, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has described this vanity, attracted by bodily relationships. He's talking about us being I can't remember. Unlimitedly vain in this world, always pertaining to my own selfish situation, with my own. When we read these, we have to go deep into our appreciation of who I am, and we realize that actually, I don't have much to offer. And in this condition, it's like this morning I was feeling like this, and I was feeling I've been trying to weather through these chapters, and then today I just gave up. I thought I'll just come and read it, because that's actually what we want. We actually want to hear this knowledge, and I'm trying to sort of explain it in different ways, but much better just to read it, and then you'll get the full purport, and not the Tridandi Purana, like overcoating it or something like that, You'll get it straight. A liberated soul. A liberated soul realizes the absolute personality of Godhead, who is transcendental and who is manifest as a reflection even in the false ego. Even in our confused, conditioned state, the Supreme Lord is still supreme. If we are thoughtful, if we are practicing sadhaks, still Krishna is there. Even I'm on the false ego platform, still I'm aware of the presence of the Lord. And I'm understanding that when the Supreme Lord's glories are sung, and I'm very anxious to hear them. I want to hear that. I know I'm in Maya. I know I'm covered, and I want to get out. I must have greed. If we don't have greed to get out, heck, how can we move? He is the support. Krishna is the support of the material cause, and he enters into everything. He's saying like this to give the vision to his mother, to see Krishna in everything. He is the absolute one without a second, and he is the eyes of the illusory energy. He's the eyes of Maya. The presence of the Supreme Lord can be realized just as the sun is realized first as a reflection on water, and again as a second reflection on the wall of a room. So trying to understand the sun, we can see it here closely as a reflection on water. Then we can even see it as a reflection on the wall. Although the sun itself is situated in the sky, but still we're seeing it here locally. In other words, Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavan, enjoying his eternal pastimes. But with knowledge, we can realize his presence through his energies running through the thread of everything in existence. Advaya Gyan Paratattva. He's not separate. Nothing in existence is separate from Krishna. Nothing. Nothing. Even this Maya that we fall into is not separate from Krishna, because Maya Devi originally is coming from Krishna. She's the shadow of Rama Devi. She's the shadow of Krishna's Shakti. The self-realized soul is thus reflected first in the threefold ego, and then in the body, senses, and mind. This is what Sankhya is giving us, a separation of the body, the mind, and the senses, to break them down, to analyze it, to see some separation here. We discussed this yesterday, and then you can get more of an insight when we realize my senses are carrying me away. Like yesterday I said, if you feel depressed and then you realize actually you've got a bad liver, oh, I'm not depressed anymore, it's just my liver that's bad. Because the liver causes depression. So it's not me that's depressed, it's my liver that's depressed. In other words, and it's not me that's running towards the objects of the senses, it's my stupid senses. They need to be controlled by the mind. And Gopi was telling us about the chariot yesterday, and the reins, the analogy that Prabhupada gives. All of these translations, by the way, are held and relished by our beloved Srila Prabhupada, and just opened and explored on every page. So I'm not going into those because I'm trying to paint the overview picture. But still you should know the glories of this Bhagavatam and take shelter and drink it daily, to actually have this embrace of Prabhupada. He used to say, these purports are my ecstasies. They really are. Because I was telling you before, I've been reading this Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary, and it's a translation by one devotee, Bhanu Swami. So he's not able to give, through a translation, a mood or a bhav in anything like the same way that Prabhupada is. Prabhupada is giving something direct from his heart, with great urgency and such great affection. You can almost see the tears, the way he's urgently wanting us to get out of this mess. Quickly, find your real treasure. Don't linger in this world. Although a devotee appears to be merged in the 5 material elements, the objects of material enjoyment, the material senses and material mind and intelligence, just in that sentence alone, it's broken. All these divisions. It's not just all one confused, situation. It's actually broken open so that we can begin to understand my situation properly. This is Sankhya philosophy. And this Sankhya is what Kapila Dev has come to preach, come to teach. He is understood to be awake and to be freed from the false ego. Even though it seems that he's covered, the devotee, because of his realization of his eternal connection with Krishna, he knows that eternally I am connected to Krishna. Jivera Sarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. I am connected. Even though he doesn't understand all the intricacies. So actually, ultimately, he's freed. He's actually freed from the false ego. The living entity can vividly feel his existence as the seer. But because of the disappearance of the ego, during the state of deep sleep, he falsely takes himself to be lost, because he's not awake yet. Like a man who has lost his fortune and feels distressed, thinking himself to be lost. Ultimately, he's not lost. I'm going to read on, because it'll become very clear what this is saying. When by mature understanding, one can realize his individuality, then the situation he accepts under false ego becomes manifest to him. As soon as I realize what a predicament I'm in, as soon as I realize this difference between the mind, the false ego, what is prakriti, how am I bound, then I can start to make some headway in becoming liberated from this. This is knowledge. Now, Devahuti is inquiring very beautifully here. She says, my dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? since one is attracted to the other eternally. How is their separation possible? I want to read from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in this verse, because he's making it very clear. So I'm going to read his commentary. Listen carefully. Liberation is rare by jnana or vairagya or even by bhakti. The reason is given here, that the Lord, possessing Shakti, entrusts to Prakriti his Shakti for the purpose of the pastime of creating the material world. Prakriti takes shelter of the Lord because he possesses the Shakti. This is Krishna's Shakti, this Prakriti, it's Krishna's Shakti. How are you going to get free from something that is Krishna's? By some speculative arrangement or some jnana or some knowledge? It's Krishna. We can't be cheating that. In this way, they have a mutual relationship between Prakriti and Krishna. There is a mutual relationship because one is Shakti. So there's a relationship here. Now, this is in inverted commas. Of the two, Prakriti is temporary. So they can separate. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, no, the relationship is eternal. So how are we going to get out? Tesham satatam yuktanam bharjatam piti purvakam dadami buddhi yogamtam yenamam. Only by constantly serving me with love and devotion can you be liberated from this condition. This is the whole truth that Bhagavad Gita is giving. And then the next verse is saying that just as fragrance can't be separated from earth, taste cannot exist separately from water, the Lord does not exist separate from Prakriti. This actually is a big, big point. I never realized this until just this morning. Just before Mangalati, I said, wow, that you can't get free from Prakriti. You can't get liberated from that. But now it's going to be explained closer here. As there is no separate, this is again Devahuti asking the question. This chapter, by the way, doesn't have a lot of verses, so don't go to sleep. It's almost finished. Yes.
So I assume that things that, I practice bhakti, I'll be liberated. But it seems like it's actually by the grace of Krishna.
Entirely. Yes, that's the point. Very good. Yes. This is the point. This is exactly the point. He's saying very beautifully. He's saying, say loudly, because you just said it very clearly.
No, that we hear from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that even bhakti won't bring liberation. And so so Maharaj quoted a verse from Gita where if you do
perform constant devotional service, yes.
Devotional service eventually will come.
Yes.
But in that, actually, we have to realize how can we harmonize those two, the statements. One that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says is even bhakti will give liberation.
Bhakti will, it's like, understand what he's saying. Bhakti Devi, of course, will give, is beyond liberation. But the practice of bhakti, we are all in the process of this. It's not like instantly we've got this liberation or detachment from matter. So we're on the path of bhakti. Well, of course, bhakti is way beyond liberation. The path of bhakti.
So what I mentioned is eventually what it is actually that we can attain it is only by the grace of Sri Krishna.
Yes, this is the heart of it. Only by Sharanagati. Only by actually Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy, can we actually attain liberation from this situation. This is the heart of it. Only by liberation, only by mercy. So we are crying for mercy to become liberated from this. As there is no... Oh, we've already said that. Hence, even though he is the passive performer of all activities, this is the jiva condition, how can there be freedom for the soul as long as material nature acts on him and binds him? How can we possibly get liberated from this? Even if the great fear of bondage is avoided by mental speculation and inquiry into the fundamental principles, it may still appear again, since its cause has not ceased. So even if you analytically try and resolve everything, still if the cause is there, the root is there, it still hasn't gone and it'll come up again. The Supreme Lord said, "One can get liberation by seriously discharging devotional service unto me, and thereby hearing for a long time about me or from me. By thus executing one's..." There's no other way. There's no other way ultimately except devotional service. This is the conclusion. Thus, by executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction. If we do what we're supposed to do, if we act according to Scripture, if we follow the rules and regulations that have been imparted by Gurudev for us to follow, rules and regulations are given out of compassion by the sages and rishis, because they know if we don't follow those rules and regulations, we're going to suffer like crazy. And if we do follow those rules and regulations, we have a hope for at least attaining a human state of consciousness, not animal. And then from that human platform, we can understand much deeper conceptions about our spiritual reality. So these rules and regulations are entirely supportive of all of our journey and should never for a moment be compromised or disregarded. And the first rule that we break almost every single day is the criticism of other devotees. I mean, this just seems to ride so strong. It seems to trip us up all the time having some judgment on somebody who has the best of intentions and is trying to chant and is trying to live his life according to what he's understood and his mental capabilities. And yet we want to minimize him. Krishna doesn't minimize him. Every little flower in the garden is like acknowledged by the Lord. It's not that the daisy or whatever, is lesser than the rose in the eyes of the Lord. So similarly, all the devotees. We have to have this mood. I'm saying this twice now, because I know it's, in my life anyway, it trips me up. Because we live together, and the nature of Kali is to be envious, So we have to hear about not doing this. Yes. Yes. Why waste our time and energy in looking at what someone else is doing? Because it's really, if we understand this other point that it was saying about individuality, we don't all go back on a Boeing 307 to Godhead. It's not like all in a great big group. We go back individually. It's said very clearly in the first canto, you fly your own airplane. We don't all. So this collective type of dependent mentality isn't helpful for bhakti. And conversely, if we take strength in that individuality, we'll become very strong and very focused very quickly. And then we don't have to say, if someone's doing something else, okay, good luck to them. I mean, living in India, that Indian mentality is very, very, it's actually too much. I mean, they accept everything in India, They go too far the other side, but they're very non-violent. India hasn't waged a war for 100,000 years. They have not been the aggressor. In their very psyche and culture, they don't have that mood. But the Westerners, completely the opposite, will wage war for anybody, about anything. Huh? Cheating. They have that too. They try to go around the side too. It's true. She knows. This is a separate question.
This particular age of Kalki will come or
No.
not?
Yeah. Shamrani has written beautifully about this. Very, very clear. There is one Yuga avatar. There is one Yuga avatar. The Yuga avatar has already been, that was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's not two Yuga avatars in Kali Yuga. In previous Kali Yugas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never appears. 999 Kali Yugas, he's not there. But in this Kali Yuga, okay, afterwards we'll talk. We'll talk after. By thus executing one's prescribed duties, there will be no reaction and one will become freed from the contamination of matter. We want to know how to do it. We want to know the law book. We want to be crystal clear on my journey. Because things are so convoluting sometimes. You know, the mind just, all kinds of little, nigglies come in. We want it to be crystal clear. And the clarity comes from the Bhagavatam. It just shines up, it's like a channel. If daily we take this Bhagavatam, daily we will be put in focus, as to our actual position here in this world and how to get out of it. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge. You only get the perfect knowledge from here. Empowered by Guru. If Guru is not there, you cannot get this. Without the light of Guru in the Shastra, or the light of Shiksha in the Shastra, you cannot understand. Actually, it's very difficult to understand. We need to have more study groups, that's what I want. Anyway. Huh? Yes.
The Bhagavatam goes to the heart,
Completely.
and most people are in the head. And most people are in the arms. That's why the universal form is there, to show you that it's a gradation to the heart region, not the head region, the leg.
Yes, because yesterday we were talking about what woke up the Virata Rupa was the heart and consciousness. After all these other, that's a brilliant point, after all these other different attempts to wake up the Virata Rupa through the mouth, the ears, the eyes, the nose, touch, etc., it was the heart and consciousness. So he's saying that the Bhagavatam is bringing us to the heart, niramatsaram, without envy, pure, free. Yes.
And who represents the heart? The Brahmins.
Yes.
The knowledge of the absolute truth.
Yes.
The church
Yes. It's so sublime, it's so peaceful, actually, to take this. This devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. One must be strongly renounced. And I explained yesterday that it's not renunciation, it's actually detachment. Never misunderstand this point at all. Don't suddenly throw all your goods away and say, now I'm renounced. If Krishna has given you some goods, then utilize it in his service. And if he hasn't, then go and see the guy who's got them, whatever. Then you balance it out. So we don't have to worry, because some have and some don't have. One must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity. What is our austerity? Yajna Sankirtanam Priye. This is our austerity in this age of Kali. This holy name we take and drink minimum 2-3 hours a day. Most people 4-5 hours a day. An enthusiastic person 7, 8, 9 hours a day. This is the heart, the goal. There is ultimately much more than that practice of taking Nama. That's our austerity. If we think about that, like before we were devotees, could you imagine just sitting and chanting on beads for like 4 or 5 hours? You think, wow, and now we do it so easily. This shows our tapasya, it shows our austerity. For the materialist, this is just, we'd never do that. Missing all those TV shows and all that jibber jabber, talking to people. How could we possibly sit for 3, 4, 5 hours chanting? And perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. So it's saying mystic yoga. This is Kapil Deva. He's the incarnation to disseminate Sankhya philosophy. Mystic yoga is a part of that. Our Gurudev was so mystical. I bet every single person in this room, without doubt, has some mystical story or 100 mystical stories to tell about Srila Gurudev. He reminded us of this nature, that it's otherworldly. It takes our consciousness, it gives us faith. If we just think it's just this two-dimensional exchange, then it's going to be very limited. But by his demonstration of all types of, not grossly exaggerated things, but just in the heart region, he demonstrated. So this mystic yoga is there. The influence of material nature has covered the living entity, and thus it is as if the living entity were in a blazing fire. What's that blazing fire called? Davanala. We sing it every morning. Everywhere this blazing fire is incinerating the jivas. But where does this fire come from? There's a story that one disciple went to Yamaraj because his guru had told him to bring some fire. First of all, the guru said, go to the village and bring some fire. The disciple went and he couldn't find any fire. In those days, they would collect fire in like a ladle. They didn't have matches, they would bring the fire. And he couldn't find any fire, so he came back to the guru and said, I can't find any fire. So the guru became angry, said, oh, go to hell and find some fire then. So the disciple, very simple-hearted, went to hell, looking for fire. Met Yamaraj, said, oh, I want some fire. And Yamaraj saw a very simple-hearted, disciple, took him by the hand, took him into the roaring, caverns of fiery hell, and said, actually, there's no fire here. It's all brought by the living entities here. It's all this raging fire to try and enjoy the material world. It creates a friction. What is the friction? The friction is I am spirit, and I'm trying to enjoy. How can it work? I'm trying to enjoy matter. It's a total contradiction. Spirit and matter are completely contradictory. Spirit is eternal. Matter is temporary. Matter is dull. Matter is like nothing. And yet we're trying to enjoy it. Like anything we're trying to enjoy it. It creates a friction. That's the fire. Hell. But by the process of seriously discharging devotional service, this influence can be removed. Just as wooden sticks, which cause a fire, are themselves consumed by it. Now this is very important because he's going to talk about the subtle body being incinerated by the fire of devotional service. What's the subtle body? Mind, intelligence, and false ego. This is the subtle body. This is going to be incinerated by devotional service automatically.
Mobile service, the fourth subtle element.
Mobile service. By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by therefore giving it up. This is what we said, like a diagnosis by a doctor. Oh, you know that this sugar is causing you hell. You know it's killing you. So give it up. And then you'll be cured of that pain. Or whatever, is our diagnosis for some disturbance. Then drop it. Give it up. This hunger to perform fruitive activities. When we hear about it and realize it, then we should have some strength just to drop it. On all levels. Oh, I want to be a great person so everyone loves me. That also has to be dropped, purified. Be the most popular. Pratishta. That's the biggest tree in the subtle desires. And it's not just sannyasis have pratishta. I've said many times, everyone can have pratishta in any place. For sannyasis, it's easy to see. So they can quickly purify themselves of it, actually. But for others, it's there, in all kinds of subtle ways. You already are, Chitra. No problem. You don't have any problem for that. I become completely detached. Actually, Vichitra is a mine of amazing treasures because of what she just commented on, It's amazing. She's a jewel. She's such a jewel. She's a treasure. Really. She terrifies me sometimes. Gurudev was never intimidated, but I am. By discovering, the faultiness. So by understanding our disease, very clearly, Kapila Dev He's so kind to his mother, showing in such simple language what is the disease, what is the problem. Now you can purify it. This disease of proprietorship, false ownership, this false ego, this is the disease. And giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory. We are sons of nectar. Isn't that what the Master said? We are born from nectar. Our own glory is nectar. You know? We are glorious. In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered, and one sees many inauspicious things, but when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him. So similarly, Prakriti does not bewilder us when we understand her workings, the nature of her. And we understand that she's Krishna's Shakti, so I'm not fighting against her. I'm not averse to her. She's here for a purpose. What is the purpose? Krishna wants to demonstrate his Karuna Shakti. He's given the Jiva independence. Independence for what? Independence to make a decision to turn back towards Krishna. This is the total picture. This is what's happening here to us. When we see it clearly, then we can really... It's still Sankhya. We're not talking about the Brijbasis and Radha and Krishna. It's Sankhya. The influence, I was actually thinking that how, we're talking this is quite heavy philosophy actually. And we're having such extraordinary, opportunity in the evening to hear this Pramara Geet. No? Brahma Geet. Especially from Umadidi last night. So we're balancing these two extraordinary aspects of the Bhagavatam, how it gives such powerful juice and opening window of the spiritual world, of Uddhava coming into Vrindavan, of his heart-wrenching conversation with Nanda Baba and Yashoda, and then meeting the gopis. The gopis are practically ready to crack in two in separation. It's described in the Vrindavan Champu by Kavi Kanpur, that they felt in that separation moment that they were being sawn in half, or they were being attacked by 1,000,000 scorpions. That was how intense their separation mood was. So we're hearing those aspects, and now we're hearing this from the third canto. It's all in the one Bhagavatam. So how blessed are we? The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the Absolute and his mind is fixed on the Supreme Lord. Stita pragyan, we discussed yesterday. Fixed. Stita pragyan, fixed on the Lord. When a person thus engages in devotional service and self-realization for many, many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. He becomes fully developed in consciousness. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited, causeless mercy. Krishna is saying very clearly, it's by his unlimited, causeless mercy. We want to petition ourselves to Gurudev, so Gurudev will petition on our behalf to Krishna and Radha to supply their mercy to us. It's only through Guru that channel will manifest. Pure Guru. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy, and thus when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. This is our future. Unadulterated bliss. Hard to even imagine sometimes. But anyway, that's what it says. I have faith in everything else, I should have faith in this. What?
They said the future is so bright now.
Yes. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee goes to the transcendental abode and never comes back. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted of the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Very important. This flirting with the mystical wonderland has to be purified, because devotees often have all these mystical qualities. But of what value are they if we can't actually be inspired to run to Srimati Radharani's service and serve her in any condition? What is the value of this? What can happen very, very easily is that people will start to glorify us in different ways. We'll take advantage of that mystic opulence. Because many times we're not only here from one birth. It must be from a number of births we have earned the privilege to sit here in front of Radha Gopinath in Vrindavan under the direction of a Mahabhagavat. It must be the result of many births that has given us that privilege. So we should appreciate, in that time frame, it's taken a long time to get here. So when it says many births, it doesn't necessarily mean we've got many more births. Maybe we already had a lot of births. And maybe, who knows? It depends on us. I was watching the other day one Prabhupada video, and someone was saying, "Oh, Prabhupada, is it going to take millions of births to actually realize that?" And Prabhupada said, "No," really loudly. He said, "No, in a second. It's up to you. Always up to us. We have to become responsible for our own situation."
Prabhupada said the ticket is your will, your desire.
Yes, the strength of our desire. The strength of our desire will be increased by Nam. Even just physically taking Nam, our enthusiasm and desire must increase.
If we are white people, we have to give birth as an Indian before we go back to America. Does that make sense?
Going back to Godhead isn't something determined by gender or nationality or color of skin. This is like a smarter conception. They like to say that because they want to still lord it over. Because they're probably intimidated by Westerners and they want to kind of, control. So they say like that. Don't worry about that. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproduct, oh, just read that. He thus, the power of death cannot overcome him. That's the last verse of chapter 27. I was hoping to do 2 chapters today. Personally, I'm very satisfied to read it through in this way and get the full picture of... We've just read one whole chapter this morning. One whole wave of amount of instruction and affection by Kapil Dev. It's all coming from affection. The commentary is coming from affection. Everywhere is affection. To melt our hearts. Gurudev, I was just reading, was saying that we should always be thinking, how can we melt Krishna's heart? Be thinking about this. We know what melts his heart. We should begin to understand what melts his heart.
Gurudev once commented on this, and actually, the only way we can melt Krishna's heart is if we melt Gurudev's heart, and on our behalf, he will melt Krishna.
So, I'm requesting Sajjan Maharaj to please tell me how to melt Gurudev's heart. Vichitri, you tell me. You know, both of you both know this secret. You're both old Gurudev followers. Vichitra, I want to hear, Sajjan Maharaj. Please, for our nourishment today, Ekadashi, tell us.
And I pray that all the acharyas' words will manifest in your hearts. So tell us, who helped you with this book? So I said, Gurudev, you did. Every time I opened up the computer, you were there. And he was expecting me to give him a list of names of the devotees. And when I said that, I said to him, you helped Gurudev. You were there every time. He just said, because accepted it. I'm just a fool, you know that. Keep me on track and depending on you. I have no intelligence, you know that. And that, it's your baby. So the mother's going to help the baby. So I literally saw him, he was like, who helped you? And then I said, you, Gurudev. He wasn't expecting to hear that. And somehow I said just enough.
This is what Gurudev wants from all of us, is our independence.
Yeah, another time my mother died. My mother died and I went to Gurudev's house. It was in California. Nobody was supposed to come. Nobody coming. So I was staying nearby and the devotees had a car. I said, let's go. So we go and Mother says, what are you doing? And then Gurudev says to Gurudev, Chitri's mother just died, so she's going to have a lot of money to give you now. I said, yes, Gurudev, I want to give you my independence. So he said, oh, come and sit down.
Really? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, if we can just give him our independence and have that always...
That means my false ego's got to go?
This is the secret, because he's come as our mother, and he wants to nurse us. He doesn't want us trying to control him. So then that wins his heart.
Very nice, Richard. Very nice
That's
indeed.
my experience.
Yeah.
It completely set me up in Vrindavan. I was a completely desperate, miserable person. And he said to me, I worry so much. What can I do to make him happy? And he figured it all out and completely set me up here. From soup to nuts. And that's his forte. When you're like completely helpless, then that opens his heart and the karuna just starts to flow.
Sharanagati.
And then you make some sacrifice to do something that he knows he won't, I work on these books no matter what. Doesn't matter how many times I've been smashed publicly, embarrassed publicly, I still keep going. I'm always working on a book. And this is an important savor for the Paramara, and so somehow he pushes me ahead, and somehow I keep going anyway.
Perfect.
So you make some sacrifice, sacrifice your faults to go forward.
Tungi.
Reciprocates.
It's a fact.
One time we were all sitting 5 o'clock darshan in Vrindavan, Gurudev was there, sitting in front of us. Tirtha Maharaj, he come from the back and he gave a packet to Gurudev and Gurudev unpacked it. Who gave this? And then Tirtha Maharaj, he told this lady, Bengali lady. And then Gurudev said, anything I will ask, she will do. And I will do anything she asks.
Really?
And I remember so well because we are all there like sitting and trying to get his attention and get mercy and blessings and everything. But he just arranged there to see what is really giving him pleasure, that this lady would do anything for him. Anyhow, maybe she never see him but once a year or something. But she was pleasing Srila Gurudev so much.
Beautiful.
So this I remember.
Very beautiful.
Stand out very
Yeah. I got it.
that she pleased
Yeah. Very sweet. We should try and always, remember these things, these ideas. Nice.
Srila Baba Maharaj wrote this in the Book of Letters. The only property of the Jeev is the lotus feet of Sri Guru. The Jeev has no other property.
But it's not always straightforward. I've told before to please Gurudev. I can remember I made that narration of the Jaiva Dharma and Brajanath showed it to him and he just said, oh, what's that, And then I made that world map, and nothing. And then I was in this stupid little drama in Badger, and then for days and days and days he kept saying, that was so good, that was so good, that was so good. Just like a 10-minute slot. And so what pleases Gurudev is not always direct. It's not just that I think this is going to please Gurudev. It may or may not. It depends on our mood, on our bhav. Like you just said about that full heart from that lady. I can imagine that mood, just completely living cent% for Gurudev's pleasure. Very beautiful, Maharaj. You tell something. He has so many jewels just sitting in his pocket.
Gurudev noticed that while you were doing that drama, something in your heart was being offered.
That's the name. Tell something from you. When was Gurudev most pleased with you?
Gurudev, what pleases him is we can try to connect with this Manobhishta. Rupa Goswami connect with the Manobhishta of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he gave everything, all to Rupa Goswami, and he asked everyone else, please give it to Rupa also. So what is the Manobhishta of our Gurudev? Our Gurudev wants us to be deep in bhajan. And he wants, the preaching is the belching of bhajans. He wants us to go deep into this, fully, and then try to give it to others through his mercy and guidance. You made a comment, and what we experienced in when my Gurudev was present, Srila Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, is he infected the devotees with the intense urgency of being Krishna consciousness and spreading it in a huge way. That there was a fever amongst devotees to want to please him by being Krishna conscious, and also trying in extraordinary ways to try to distribute it to others, and depending on him for the success. Gurudev so many times spoke to us, what is bhakti? I was trying to remember the verse in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service am I to be understood as I am standing before you. I forget the Sanskrit.
Bhakti-atananaya, isn't it? Bhakti-atananaya shakya, something like this. The first line anyway.
So,
Speak loudly, Maharaj. Let them hear at the back.
Also, Sadhasanga is so important. You're saying we should be independent, but we have to keep careful that we're not the proper independence and the proper dependence on Sadhasanga as well. Not overly dependent or not without dependence. We can't, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, that if there's party spirit or sectarianism, that is a cause of leaving Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very careful. But we're completely dependent on the association of devotees and senior advanced devotees to help us. This is how we can please Gurudev, by always trying to go deeply into Nadapi, Sanichina, Torapi, Sishna, and giving all respects to others and not desiring for their respect. You mentioned a comment about Pratishta in the sannyas ashram. After I received sannyas from Gurudev, and we went to Jagannath Puri, and then when I met up with Gurudev in Mumbai, he said, "So how is your sannyas?" And I said, "Oh, Gurudev, thank you so much. A big burden has been lifted off my shoulders." And he said, "Yes." And I said, "But now there's such a bigger burden." And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "The whole parampara is weighing down on me, that I should get it together and then help them try to spread this to others." He said, "Yes, this is danda." And I said, "So please protect me from, there's so much pratishtha that people are," I was completely amazed how much respect and honor and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, "Please protect me from this." And he said,
The sannyas ashram means pratishta. But how you use that, if you keep it for yourself, it will crush you. But if you always offer it to your Gurudev, and to your Guru Parampara, Guru Varga, then you will be protected from that pratishta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was given so many respects. When someone would offer, there would be a basis to him, he would say, Dasosmi, Dasosmi. I am your servant, I am your servant. If we think we're the repository or we deserve some respect from others, then pride proceeds to fall. But it's simple. In order to please Krishna, we can please Guru. In order to please Guru, we can apply his teachings very, very deeply and seriously, and then try to help him distribute that to others.
Jai.
Jai Srila Gurudev.
Jai. Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Ekadashi ki Jai. Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Gopinath Bhavan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,